What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we are also presented by Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Parasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. This morning, I am joined by my good friend Tyler Yaremchuk. We will also chat with Jesse Montano, who covers the Colorado Avalanche, and Marco D'Amico, who covers the Montreal Canadiens. So we'll jump around from West Coast to East Coast on this morning's show. We'll also get into a little Sabres talk to kick things off. We'll talk about the Palat trade with the Islanders and the Devils. So lots of different ways we can go. But first of all, Tyler, thank you for waking up this morning. I know it's 7 a.m. your time in Edmonton. And how you doing? Everything good? Caught up for the weekend?
Yep, I'm definitely caught up on the weekend. Your energy is infectious. It definitely does not feel like I woke up 9 minutes ago. So I'm ready to do this. Let's go, Jay Laz.
I'm honestly on like 4 hours of sleep. I was up late last night watching Djokovic and Musetti. I don't know if you're a tennis fan, but the Australian Open's on right now. So I'm like catching the 2 a.m. matches. I wasn't on purpose. I was trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't. Amal and I are in Boston. I'm actually doing a cool shoot today at Boston University with Cole Hudson for Bauer. Cool. So I'm here in Boston. Then I'm doing like a little content piece with Parasso as well. So I'll be in Boston all day today. I'm excited to be here. Yes, obviously Colby is not here again. If you don't know by now, Colby's just got some family stuff going on. So we're monitoring that pretty much day by day. This week I think Tyler will fill in again tomorrow, but obviously we're all thinking and hoping things are okay with Colby, and everyone here loves him and misses him. So if you want to send a message on Twitter or something, like, you can send your love. I don't know if he'll respond, but obviously, Colby's a guy who loves to feel love, even though he tries to hide it sometimes. But Tyler, let's talk some hockey. Buffalo Sabres again, I think 19-3-1 now in their last 23 games. I saw a stat, they're down 23-1-0 when leading after 2 periods. Last night they spanked the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. Now Toronto 0-4-1 in their 5-game home stretch here. But with Buffalo, we could talk about Rasmus Dahlin. He has the hat trick, the 5-point night. That's like the 3rd defenseman with a hat trick this week. And for him to put that performance on after everything that came out about him like 2 days ago with him and his wife, and I think their birth difficulties that they had, and obviously his wife's had some medical stuff going on, and we all really feel for Dahlin. But just incredible performance by Buffalo, and curious, what you've made of this Sabres stretch here.
Just insane that they were able to flip this switch the way that they did. And like, I know there was the Kevin Adams firing, but I don't know how much the guys in the room would have been, jolted or rejuvenated by the general manager getting fired. Like, it's just the fact that, again, so many guys have just gone and been on these amazing runs. Like Thompson, 34 points in 27 games since December 1st. Dahlin, point-per-game defenseman since December 1st. Alex Tuch, 21 points, 11 goals in 26 games. But, like, just look at the fact that, like, Ryan McLeod's been unreal since December 1st. Josh Doan has continued to look good. Matthias Samuelson's got 19 points in that stretch. That's a guy who was getting health bombed last year at points, was he not? Like, so many players at the exact same time have found ways to elevate their play. And because there are so many of them that have elevated their play over this stretch, even when a couple of them have a poor week, it just feels like someone else is there to pick up the slack, and it's resulted in this absolutely insane run. And if they win the games in hand that they have, they could be tied to the Detroit Red Wings for potentially having home ice advantage in round 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah. Crazy. And I'm happy you mentioned Matthias Samuelsson, because Colby and I had this conversation last year, and I know you talked about it recently, but the NHL does not have like a most improved player award. The NBA does it every year. I think it's a great award to give out. I know you got heat for it because people think it's like this is the worst kid on your youth team, and they just hand out an award every year to the worst kid. But this to me is not what like the most improved award in the NBA represents. It's not what it should represent in the NHL if they were to hand that out. But Mattias Samuelsson, like just looking at the year he's having, I believe he's plus 27. He's already like tripled his point total from last year. He's a guy who signed that 7-year extension after playing 54 career NHL games. And I think everyone was kind of scratching their head saying, why would Buffalo do this? This is the reason why the Sabres franchise is a fucking joke, because they hand out contracts like this. But Mattias Samuelsson this year, I mean, you talk about that December 1 stretch, you just mentioned it, 19 points, 3 goals, 16 assists in 27 games, plus 20 in that span. You know, last night, not only is he producing offense, but he's also like a bully and a beast on the back end. You know, you heard Tage Thompson talk about him a little bit on Spit and Chicklets not too long ago when he made his appearance. And Mattias Samuelsson is now someone, when you watch the Buffalo Sabres, like he's a noticeable guy pretty much every shift. And curious, it leads to a larger conversation. Like if you were talking about a most improved player award in the NHL this year, who would be your guy? Like I think you told me you had one and you wanted me to guess, but I'm not really good at the hot seat thing.
First off, on Samuelsson, like he signed that long-term deal. The Sabres wanted to get him locked in at like a super low cost. And you know who this career arc in a way kind of reminds me of is, you know, Mike Matheson kind of went through something similar like this, where he had a really strong start to his career. Then they locked him up to that long-term deal thinking, oh, we're going to have a value contract for years and years to come. And then he kind of bounced around a little bit, right? He had a bit of a lull. And I think it's a good reminder that like development in any sport, and especially hockey, it's never a straight line, right? Like a player doesn't go from just being a prospect to a third pairing defenseman, second pairing, first pairing, and oh, there we go. Like guys can have bad seasons, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be labeled as a bust or a bad player or a bad contract or whatever. So to see Samuelsson bounce back, like I think it is important to remember that this isn't a guy who had a bad season at 31 years old and it's like, oh, well, there goes that career. Like he's on the back nine of things. Like he's still only 25 years old. So I think like in the spirit of like what would be a most improved player award, like Samuelsson would absolutely be in that conversation. He's in his mid-20s and he bounced back after having a really poor season. I think Trevor Zegras would be an excellent answer. And I know before the show, Vic was saying, you know, maybe like a Leo Carlson, and then you guessed Macklin Celebrini. But for me,
Macklin doesn't count.
Yeah, like second year of their career, like I don't think that's necessarily the spirit of a most improved player award. But who I'll give my most improved shout out to is Darren Raddysh. 29 years old, 37 points last year, and he's a point per game D-man right now on the Lightning. And it's not like this is a guy playing sheltered third pairing minutes, power play time, all that. He basically had to wake up one morning and become Victor Hedman for this team and like play top pairing minutes and all of this stuff. Like the fact that he's taken the jump 17-18 a night. That was his average time on ice last year. This year it's jumped up to 22-21, and he is a point per game player. His 5-on-5 metrics are unbelievable. Him and JJ Moser statistically have been one of the best pairings in the NHL. Like Darren Raddysh is one of the best stories going.
And he won himself like a power play job, right? Like even when Hedman comes back and everyone's healthy on Tampa, like Raddysh is still going to run that power play. Like he's been unbelievable. And his shot, you know, everyone talks about the Bush bomb. Raddysh has almost just as heavy of a shot as a Bouchard does. Like, you know, there's a difference between someone who shoots the puck hard and someone who's got like the heavy shot, right? Like it's so hard to explain it. But Raddysh is one of those guys who, you know, you block that thing or you know, you hear it hit the boards, just, you know, you see him get it off. Like you just can tell that guy shoots on a different level. But Raddysh is probably the best answer. Like, you know, I could talk about Samuelsson, but Raddysh makes the most sense. I don't think anyone would argue that. I saw John Gibson in the chat. That was another good one from Colonel Ludlow. You know, he's obviously had a great resurgence in Detroit. I haven't seen any other names in our chat. Jay Lewis said Gavrikov for the Rangers, but Gavrikov has not been that good without Adam Fox. He's played with Braden Schneider for a lot of the year. So I don't know if Gavrikov would qualify right now. Mason Lohrei from Neil Simmons is a pretty decent answer. Logan Stanley from Jay Miller is another good answer. Maybe we'll see some names flow in. Morgan Geekie, he had a great year last year. I don't know if I'd consider him to be a most improved player. Maybe last year he would have been the most improved guy. But this year he's fouled that up. Tony DeAngelo, another one. Any other names that come to mind for you?
I want to share one more stat on the Moser and Raddysh pairing and how good it's been for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I just pulled up their natural stat trick page. 513 5-on-5 minutes, and they've only been on the ice for 8 goals against. Now, like, part of that
That's insane.
is you have Andrei Vasilevsky playing in net for you, so like some of your mistakes are going to get masked, but that's the equivalent of them having played like 25 games together if you look at it as 20 minutes a night. So 25 games they've played together, and they've only been on the ice for 8 5-on-5 goals. That's like mind-blowing.
Yeah, Colonel Ludlow just said Raddysh and Moser both too. Moser obviously signed that big fat extension too, so he's been rewarded for his play this year, and we're all waiting to see what happens with Raddysh's contract and what Tampa Bay decides to do. If they can even afford him now, who knows? But Tyler, let's shift gears and talk about the New York Islanders, who made trades this week now with the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils. You rarely see teams like that make trades with their crosstown rivals, let alone 2 in a 3-day span. What did you originally make of this swap? I think it's beneficial for both sides. It was Andre Palat for Maxim Tzyplakov, a 3rd and a 6th to the Islanders. To the Devils, excuse me, and to the Islanders, they just get Andre Palat and they take on the full contract, full salary. So what were your initial thoughts? I know you're not really in this area, but still curious to hear what you had to make of that.
Yeah, like obviously Palat's play has fallen off a cliff, and with him having a no movement clause, I think another part of this is like he had full control of where he was going to go. So it's not like Matthew Darche could sort of dangle him to every bad team in the NHL, right? Like there's going to be a limited number of teams who he's going to agree to go to. And then also that pool gets smaller when it's teams who can afford to take on the full $6 million. So I'll actually give Tom Fitzgerald a little bit of credit here for only having to pay a 3rd and a 6th rounder to get out of that money, because it's not just this year, but it's next year as well for Palat at $6 million. So I think this is a move that benefits both sides as much as I'm sure people want me to come on here and like yell and scream about how someone fleeced somebody. I just don't think that's the reality here. If you're the Islanders, Jonathan Drouin's been, a little bit of a disappointment this year. So maybe you're hoping that Palat can just give you that extra little layer of scoring in the middle 6. Islanders get out of the Tzyplakov deal. Sure, I guess you can view that as a positive, but I don't know. I for me, like the next ripple in all of this is like, all right, New Jersey, you don't spend the money to get out of that cap space to do nothing with it. Like, what are the Devils now going to do on the trade market? Because if you're going to pay to get out of a contract like this, it's a little bit of the old line of like, you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, right? Like, if you're paying to get out of Palat's money, you better go spend it now and spend more picks on trying to upgrade this roster.
Yeah, and for the comments in the chat right now saying like, I see the Rangers wire saying Tzyplakov has 2 points this year. I would say the Isles 1 if there's a winner. I agree. Like I get where Rangers wire is coming from, but the Devils also needed to get off that contract. Like they needed to get rid of Palat and not retain any money. So I do think you can look at that as a win. I don't think Maxim Tzyplakov is necessarily going to make the Devils a better team, but for the Devils to get more cap space and to have some freedom to use that money towards something else, like they need to go out there and get a top 6 winger that can actually produce. So I think that's why it's a win for them. And the Islanders replace now Kyle Palmieri, who's out for the year, and Alexander Romanov, on the back end with Soucy and Palat for basically nothing. They get their picks back. They get the 3rd round pick back that they gave up for Soucy, and they tack on a 6th round pick to go with that. So, if you are trying to pick a winner, I do really see the positives for both sides. Zach Phillips coming in here trolling and saying, nah, fleecing. But I know Zach didn't get any sleep last night after he was up till like 3 a.m. doing his Leafs After Dark show, trying to, calm people down there in Toronto. But yeah, I don't think there's,
Did I just lose Johnny? Vic? Johnny's gone. Yes. You want me to take over? Sounds good. Laz, we lost your audio. We can't hear you. I will give the people one thing, and it is a piece of breaking news from the NHL. The Detroit Red Wings announcing 9 minutes ago that they've agreed to a 3-year contract extension with Ben Sherratt, total AAV of $3.85 million. So Detroit taking care of UFA that was in their lineup. Obviously, things have been going very not to the degree of the players we were talking about, but Sherratt had a nice little bounce back with the Detroit Red Wings after I'd say maybe a rough start to his time there. So the Wings extend Sherratt. Johnny, are you back?
Am I back? Am I working? Is this good?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm good? Okay. Geez, thanks for hosting my own show, Ty. Thanks for coming on here to to replace me, I guess. Sorry, my brain's a little thrown off here. We do have Jesse Montano here. So with that, I don't want to waste any time. Let's just give a quick word from our sponsor, JP Wisers. No matter where your team sits this season, watching the game with your crew makes everything better. The wins feel bigger and the rivalries hit harder. As the official whiskey of the NHL, JP Wisers is all about those moments that matter from October through June. The rituals, the midweek matchups, and the regional rivalries that bring friends together, because when you get the crew together for game night, that's a W. This season, fans can look forward to limited edition products and plenty more from JP Wisers. To stay up to date, visit jpwisers.com and subscribe to the JP Wisers newsletter for the latest on limited edition drops, products, and more. Must be legal drinking age. Enjoy responsibly. With that, let's bring on first-time guest Jesse Montano. Jesse, great to see you. Big fan of your work, and so happy to finally have you on this show. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on. I watch the show all the time, so it's a pleasure to come on. And Tyler, great to see you. Wasn't expecting to see you here.
Yeah, Johnny's stealing all the guests that I usually book on my shows, which is great. All good, Laz.
Well, Jesse, there's big news yesterday out of Colorado. The Sam Malinski extension, 4 years, $4.75 million. Obviously, for a guy who was a diamond in the rough, right? Comes out of Cornell University, undrafted, and now has turned into a really strong NHL defenseman. Fits Colorado perfectly, right? Like with the skating ability, the offensive touch and awareness, and his defensive game is not lacking as well. So I think the original thoughts, right, when I saw the tweet drop, were like a lot of reactions saying this is an overpay, a guy who necessarily hasn't proved himself fully in the NHL yet. I couldn't disagree more. You watch him every night. What'd you make of this contract extension when it first dropped?
Yeah, Johnny, you're spot on with the diamond in the rough. And one of the first things that I remember about, I wasn't tuned into Cornell every single night when he was playing there, right? So I wasn't super familiar when the Avs signed him as a college UFA. And you do that quick little, 10-minute YouTube scout. And the first thing that jumped out to me, I said, oh, this kid, and careful with what I'm saying here, this kid looks like Cale Makar in the way that he moves, just the style that he tries to play, right? And I just said, well, you can tell that this is a guy who's modeled his game off of Cale a bit, and his game translated immediately to the pro level. I believe he scored a goal in his first AHL game, if my memory serves me right. Just like I said, just the game just translated so quickly to the AHL level that he started getting looks in the NHL quickly, and he just never looked like he, struggled to translate his game to the next level every time. And it was just really impressive, how comfortable he looked so early on. And so kind of just following his progression here, you're totally right. He's the exact type of player the Avs like to model. I guess I shouldn't say like to model, like to get players to fit into their system. He's exactly what they like, right? Not to mention he's a high character guy, former captain at Cornell, fits into that locker room culture that they've worked really hard to cultivate. He's just been a great fit, and I'm with you, Johnny. Like I think it's the upside he's got plus what he's already shown. I think this is far from an overpay. I actually think this is going to look like a great deal, this time next season.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like some of his numbers, and the one thing that stands out is this guy absolutely flies. Like he's 94th, 97th percentile and all those stats that NHL Edge keeps, like speed bursts and whatnot. And I think like you just touched on it, but fitting into that style in Colorado, and sometimes people just still think of, okay, what's a defenseman got to do? Well, they got to be big, they got to be bruising, they got to cross-check guys, all of that. But I feel like the way that a lot of these high-end teams in the NHL, and the Avs are obviously that, are trending, are like, no. The best way for us to defend is to skate really well and defend off the rush, and then also move the puck really well. And when you look at this Avs blue line, like that's what they do well, right? Is they skate fast and they move the puck.
So Corey Masisak, who writes for the Denver Post, great writer. He's been around the league for a long time. He and I kind of had this running joke that the Avs D-core is maybe the best we've ever seen at taking what looks like a high danger chance against, and within 3 seconds turning it into an odd man rush up ice for the Avalanche. It's just crazy. Like they're Devon Taves, Cale Makar, Sam Malinski. Those are guys that I think would be technically considered undersized. They're all at about 6 foot, 6'1". But they're all just fantastic defenders. They gap up so well. They use their sticks, and you're totally right, Tyler. Like they move the puck well, and they're really smart in transition. They communicate well. And I think all three of those guys that I named, and Sam Malinski's included, I think play a bigger, more physical game than what you'd expect for guys their size. So yeah, he fits really well. And this is a guy that I really do right-handed shot. I think has legitimate second pair upside for this Avalanche team. Since Devon Taves went down, he's been playing on his offside with Cale Makar on the top pair. And I think outside of maybe a couple very small exceptions, hasn't looked out of place.
Nah, Johnny, you're muted again. I'll take the next one. Don't worry about it. The Avs have actually lost 4 of their last 6 here over this little stretch, and it's the first time all year that I guess you could say they've kind of sputtered a little bit. Has anything like fallen off in their game at all, or is this just a product of like, hey, it's the NHL and you're not going to go on the run that the Avs were going on for 50 games all season?
So I think it's a little bit of that, what you just said there at the end, that like, you knew they'd hit this skid a little bit. I also think there's a little bit, and I actually think, Tyler, the last time we talked, we were talking a little bit about Gabe Landeskog. This skid has also coincided with Gabe Landeskog being out of the lineup. And I think it just does continue to underscore what a player like that means to this organization and you know, the way that he can rally this group. Their game has just looked great analysis coming up here. Just a step off, right? You know, passes are a foot too far in front. They waited a second too long. They hold a shot for a second and a half, 2 seconds longer than they should. They're making the extra pass. It's just, I think a lot of it is you weren't going to go on that run for 50 or 60 straight games, and none of them like to lose, right? No one likes to lose, but I do think there's a little bit of a sentiment of like, all right, we've got to dig deep here and figure out, you know, what we're doing wrong, who we are as a group. And I think there's a bit of the adversity that is good for this group. We all remember, you know, with the Tampas and the Bostons, you know, of the world have happened in the first round of the playoffs last year after historic seasons. And John Cooper actually talked about it a couple weeks ago when the Avs were in Tampa, saying, yeah, it's a team that I think could use some adversity. And they're going through it now. And I also think they're a little ready for the break. This condensed schedule has been tough on every team in the league.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Johnny just left again, so I'll just pick up on the next question. But let's turn our attention to the trade deadline, Jesse, and what this Avs team could do. Because there's kind of 2 lines of thinking when you're a team as strong as the Avs. It's like, hey, your roster is good. Don't mess with it. And if you're an Avs team who's kind of gone all in a few seasons now, like last year, obviously the Brock Nelson deal cost them a lot to pull off. Like, do you take this year and go, you know what? We're already the best team in the West. Like, let's take this as a chance to save some assets and not spend more. Or do you sit there and say, hey, let's fill a couple of the spots that maybe we do view as weaknesses? How do you think this front office is going to handle the deadline this year?
Look, if there's anything that we've learned from Chris McFarland over the last few years, it's that he's going to be aggressive. If there's a player that he thinks can make his team better, he's going to be in on him. And I think this season's going to be no different. You know, I was just talking with someone the other day in 2022 when the Avalanche won the Cup. I remember the dust settled on trade deadline day, and we kind of started sitting there and, you know, going through and counting up, okay, who do you got? How many defensemen, how many forwards? And you sat there and you went, wait, there's too many guys here. You know, there was like 14 forwards, 7 defensemen. You're sitting there like I don't know who you sit, who you whatever. And that kind of was the idea, was Chris McFarland wanted to go 2 players deep into the press box, you know, if you got an injury, before you had to hit an AHL call-up player. And I think that's what they're going to do this year as well. I think Chris McFarland's going to, you know, load up around the fringes, but I think he's also going to try to add an impact player. And I think there's a few, you know, trade pieces in the cupboard that you have right now that maybe you didn't in the past. I think there's a chance that Ross Colton gets moved. I think he's a good player, and I think stylistically it makes sense that he would fit with this Avalanche team. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked. They just haven't found a spot for Ross Colton over the last 2.5 seasons that he's been here. I also think, and look, I'm not advocating for this, but the Avs haven't had a high-end NHL-ready prospect in a few years. And Gavin Brindley has had a good season for the Avs, and you know, an all-right season for a second-year player, definitely undersized. I think there's a chance that if a team out there is interested in a player like Brindley, that they can include him as a trade piece. So I think Chris McFarland's going to be aggressive. That's what he's shown us in the past. And I think they really, really believe in the group they have this year. So I think they're going to give them every chance they can to go on a run.
Jesse, if the playoff starts today, who's getting the net? Are they going to split through the playoffs? Like, what do you think is going to happen with the goaltending situation?
It's a great question. Look, Jared Bednar is a big believer in having one guy, right? Like having a starter. And I think that's what you need for the playoffs. I think it'll be Mackenzie Blackwood. I think it would be Mackenzie Blackwood if it started today, just because that's who they have said. That's our number one. That's our guy. But man, it is hard to deny how good Scott Wedgwood has been. Just kind of being, forced into action at the start of the year with Mackenzie Blackwood coming back. And it's one of those cases of like, it was supposed to be for the first month of the season while Mackenzie Blackwood worked his way back, and Scott Wedgwood just has made it impossible to not give him starts with how well he's played. But the other thing about Scott Wedgwood, and like he's acknowledged this, like there's maybe nobody better in the league at understanding his role on the team. And obviously I say that a little bit, tongue in cheek, but like he's a guy who's talked about like, yeah, a strength of my career has been, I cannot play for 2-3 weeks and then I'll give you a really quality start. He understands, how to play that role. And I think ultimately when we get there, that is what they'll do is they'll go to Blackwood knowing that, you've got Wedgwood as a great option who's been really good for you all season. And as we saw in 2022, and trigger warning here, Tyler, sorry about this, but Pavel Francouz sweeps the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Final when Darcy Kemper goes down because his eye is so swollen he can't see. The Avs have learned you literally need everybody to win a Stanley Cup, and so I think they feel really comfortable with the two goalies they've got right now.
And with that too, Tyler, I'll give you a little rest here since you basically took my spot. Thank you again for doing that. But you talk about the difference in, I guess, this team versus the 2022 team who obviously, got the job done. And you got to talk about Brock Nelson, right? And the fact that he's now come in and been that replacement for Nazem Kadri, who they've been looking for since they won the cup. Nelson obviously has fit like a glove basically in Colorado. But what have you seen from Brock Nelson that we didn't know before? Because he was still doing, this kind of stuff on Long Island. He just didn't have the supporting cast. Like, what do you see from Brock Nelson every night?
So I don't think he's going to win it, but I think this is a guy that's going to get Selke votes. And I guess I didn't really know that, about his two-way game being as strong as it is. That wasn't something that I was super, in tune with when he got to town here last year. And it's funny because the defensive part of his game was actually the thing that I thought started to pop right away here, even though it took a little while for the, the production and the offense to kind of catch up. Last season, there was a lot of folks who said that he struggled because he didn't score a bunch when he got here. But if you go back and rewatch that Dallas series, he was really good away from the puck. He did a lot of really good things, and it's a shame because it's a shame they lost the way they did, because it felt like that Landeskog, Nelson, Nichushkin line was really starting to gel in that series by the time the seventh game rolled around. And we were having conversations in the press box when it was 2-0, saying, man, that line's going to give either Winnipeg or St. Louis fits. And then by the time we got downstairs in the elevator, all that had changed. But so like I said, that really started to pop. And now the way the offense is catching up, I just talked to him last week about it, and he said yeah, I think this is maybe the best I've ever felt in my career. He's just, he's fit seamlessly into the system. He's fit into the culture. Since Gabe Landeskog went out, he's wearing a letter on his chest. He's emerged as a leader in that room. And, it's funny because during those captain skates before training camp opens, I noticed that him and Nathan McKinnon were talking a lot. They were spending a lot of time on the ice together, just kind of, it seemed like, trading secrets and just talking, scheme and all kinds of stuff. And now he can't stop scoring. So like I said, he's fit and I think the leadership group really likes him. And, man, if he keeps scoring like this, that $7.5 million deal is going to look like an absolute steal. And as Jared Bednar made sure to point out to us last week, they took some heat saying that was an overpay for a guy like Brock Nelson when that deal was signed over the summer.
But with the Avs too, you don't want to waste any time, right? Like this team is so good right now, probably like the best they're going to get. Like I don't think you're looking to build, 5 years from now, if you're Colorado, you want to be the best team you can be right now. And that's what's working for them. And with that, I just want to go to our chat for a second. We got a live chat function, obviously, as it's happening. And Joe Albany said, ask Jesse if the Avs have any interest in Panarin. Obviously, you're hearing all the Panarin rumors. But to me, I don't want to necessarily, give you an answer here. But like, in my opinion, maybe Colorado adding Panarin is almost putting too many chefs in the kitchen, right? Like, you've seen that happen with teams before. I don't know if the Avalanche need a talent or superstar of Panarin's quality right now, because who knows if that'll just mess the feng shui up a little bit.
Yeah, there's only so many people you can fit in that right circle to take one-timers, right? Between McKinnon, Netchus, and then if you added Panarin. Look, like I was saying a minute ago, if there's a player on the market that the front office thinks can make the team better, they're going to check on it. So, it sounds like the Avs have at least checked in, like I think a lot of other teams have, on, hey, what is the price of that? To be honest with you, I'm with you, Johnny. Like, I don't think it makes a ton of sense, just because suddenly you say, okay, so that's a player that you plug in somewhere in your top six, either with Nelson and Nichushkin or with McKinnon and Netchus. But then that means you're moving a guy that's really a top six guy down to that third line. What are you having to move out to make the money work? Where else does that leave a hole on your roster? So look, like Artemi Panarin, that's a 95 point guy. He's obviously, a really, really good player. I think you check in on it, but I just don't think it makes a ton of sense for the Avs. In terms of, I just don't see where he really fits on this roster. But look, I'm not going to rule out that Chris McFarland isn't going to take a big swing on something. So I'm definitely not going to sit here and say, no, that's not something they're going to go, be interested in or check in on. I just don't think when it comes right down to it, if they made that trade, I would have a hard time figuring out where exactly, everything plugged in. And yeah, you've got plenty of high-end superstars that can score goals on this team. So I just don't know if it's a massive need for him. But Chris McFarland will check in. They're in on every big player, at least to see what it would cost.
All right, Jesse, my last one for you here, and I'm Team Macklin Celebrini for MVP. Convince me why Nathan McKinnon should win it over Tyler's Connor McDavid. Celebrini, Kucherov is now in the mix. Sell me on McKinnon, even though you shouldn't have to. Sell me on McKinnon.
Well, before I sell you on McKinnon, I will say if San Jose gets in, I think it's going to be hard to vote against Celebrini. What he's doing, especially as a second-year player, is unbelievable. Look, for me, it's Nathan McKinnon is, and I can't remember if it was on your show, Tyler, where I talked about this, like, Gabe Landeskog's the heartbeat of the organization, but Nathan McKinnon's the engine. Like, he's what makes it go. Those players go as Nathan McKinnon goes, and what he's done this season has been unbelievable, even by his standards. You can tell that loss to Dallas last year has lit a fire under this group in a different way, and I think he's at the core of all of it, right? Like, he's the one pushing this forward. He's the one who's demanding the level of excellence that I think we're seeing every night, and just the way that he is put this team, this organization on his shoulders and is just, I think, kind of willing them forward every single night. It's been incredible to watch. And I think my vote, or my guess, is that those three that you just listed will end up being the finalists. And I think it's going to be hard to pick only one, but I think Nathan McKinnon is the reason the Avs got out to the start they did is in large part because of Nathan McKinnon and just like I said, the way that he drives this team and this whole organization forward. I think he's been the most valuable player to his team. But like I said, if the Sharks get in, I'm going to have a hard time voting against Macklin Celebrini, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's tough. And honestly, Neil Simmons in our chat just wrote McKinnon plus 49 in 50 games. What the hell? Yeah, I mean, McKinnon is on an all-world tear right now. But this is the thing that's happening in the NHL too, and we're seeing it with Connor McDavid. Like, we just kind of expect greatness from these guys, that like what they do night in, night out, it's almost like it's, whatever, just another night of Nathan McKinnon. I think it is one of those things where, you see it every night. You got to appreciate what you're watching every night, I imagine.
He and I know you have an appreciation for this, with a guy like Connor McDavid, but like watching Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, like the game looks so easy to them. like Nathan MacKinnon does stuff and like, again, there's the whole like I'm choppy, from earlier this year with Crosby, and you just watch him and it's like, holy smokes, if you're choppy, I'm like the worst person that's ever put on skates. Like I've never, you know what I mean? Like, it's just incredible to watch. He does stuff that, the game just looks so easy to him, and you can tell that it moves. For Nathan MacKinnon, the game moves at half the speed at which the three of us watch it. It's crazy. And as a kid, I remember I used to, look at Pittsburgh and DC, like in Crosby and Ovechkin's early years, like, oh man, how awesome for those cities. They get to watch these guys every night. And now I've been, covering Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar for the last 10 years. So, definitely lucky.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, thank you so much for hopping on this morning. We appreciate you getting up early too, and mountain time. I definitely speak for me and Vic. Colby's not here, but you will 100% be making another appearance on the show. You're an awesome guest. You do incredible work for Guerrilla Sports. So if you're not following Jesse, go check out his stuff. What's your Twitter handle? Is it just your name, right?
Yeah, Jesse Montano _ There's another Jesse Montano out there that beat me to the punch.
Okay,
motherfucker.
All right. Yeah, we'll get him. But thank you again for the time this morning. Really appreciate it. Awesome stuff.
See you, Jesse.
Yeah. Johnny, Tyler, thanks so much, boys. Can't wait to be back. See you.
Be good. Awesome work there from Jesse. Like, again, that was his first time on our show, so I don't know if our listeners are familiar with him, at least on the podcast platform or whatever you want to call this. But Jesse does, amazing stuff out there in Colorado. Great video quality content as well. So if you're not following him, go check him out. I do believe we have Marco D'Amico ready, Vic. I think so. We'll switch gears here and talk a little Colorado Avalanche. But before that, just a quick word from our sponsor, Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. And with Uber Eats, we always crave the stats. And today's stat of the day, Cole Caufield scored his 30th goal of the season last night. He's now on a 6-game goal streak and has 9 goals in those 6 games. It feels like ever since the Team USA roster for the Olympics dropped, Cole Caufield has really rubbed it in their faces. So Marco D'Amico making his second appearance, now an official recurring guest on the show. How you doing? How are your Montreal Canadiens doing? And how much fun is it to watch Cole Caufield right now?
I'm doing great. I would say Cole Caufield is doing great. And I think it's very exciting to watch the Canadiens, especially at forward this season. I think that, again, this is the first time in a long time where they have, 5 40 points scorers on this team, including one defenseman that's a point per game. So very exciting to be able to watch them. Very interesting to be able to see them develop and grow. Some players are, going through the sophomore slump or the rookie slump right now. Some players are really taking off. And like you mentioned, Cole Caufield right now, a crazy stat that I saw yesterday. The first player since the first Montreal Canadiens player since the 1989-1990 season to have 30 goals by the 53-game mark. The last person to do that was Stéphane Richer, and he scored 50 goals that season.
Is that just for Montreal, or that's NHL in general?
Just for Montreal. Just for Montreal.
Okay, I was gonna say that. Yeah,
Which, no.
Still great. Still great.
Nate MacKinnon, didn't Nate MacKinnon have like 30 goals by like the 40
Dumb question by me. My Wi-Fi's bad. I'm all fucked up this morning.
Don't worry about it. It just goes to show you how starved the Canadiens fans have been for a goal scorer like this for the last 35, 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Another guy, he's in that group of players who've hit the 40-point mark, but Juraj Slafkovsky is, on pace to have a career season. He's on pace to score well north of 30 goals this season. What's kind of changed in his game or developed in his game to allow him to take this leap forward?
I think there's a couple of elements to go into it. When you're a player that big, power forwards take time because they need to see the game kind of slow down for them. When you're a bigger player, take up more space. The range of motion is a little different. That half a second when you have to try to make a play is crucial, and you really have to be efficient with your time in doing that. That's exactly what we're seeing this season. He's quicker. His release is faster. His decision making is faster, but he's also stronger and more assertive, especially when it comes to him being able to carry the puck up on the rush. And I think that's where a lot of his value is coming in, is being able to enter the offensive zone, maintain pressure, and then be able to feed his younger line mates. Right now, both rookies, Oliver Kapanen and Ivan Demidov. So he's done really well at kind of being like the young veteran on that line. But really what makes him kind of unique in the Canadiens' whole team is that he's fearless when it comes to going to the high danger areas. He plays the bumper on the power play. He's been extremely efficient in that regard. And I think that as the season kind of progresses and, systems get tighter and tighter, he's going to be more and more clutch for a team like Montreal trying to make the playoffs in the Atlantic.
I'm really happy, Marco, that you mentioned Demidov, but I hate him, and let me tell you why. Because this is a joke, by the way. I don't actually hate Demidov. I hate him because he's getting 15 minutes a night. He's gotten like third line time too, right? Like he's been up and down the lineup, and this guy is still on a tear. So anyone who wants to make excuses for young players, Demidov is ruining that whole concept. Demidov again is a guy who's in his first full season in the NHL, +7, and he's got 40 plus points. Like, why is this guy not playing 25 minutes a night? Or, obviously forwards don't get 25. Why is Demidov not playing 18 to 22 minutes a night if he's playing this well?
I don't know. Nick Suzuki sometimes gets like 23 minutes a night, so I wouldn't put it past the Canadiens once Demidov really kind of hits his stride. But I think it's a balancing issue. You don't want to necessarily overuse the player. Martin St. Louis has been really kind of calm in bringing the player about and not giving him too much too fast. 15 minutes a night, 16 minutes a night is about the right frame of mind when there isn't overtime involved. And I think, he gets first power play wave time. That kid line that he's on with Kapanen and Slafkovsky was producing quite well. They're going through a little bit of a funk right now, but that's because most of the Canadiens players are a little tired from the schedule. I would say that a player like him, he's just very intelligent and very coachable. So one of the things when you come from the KHL is dealing with pressure, dealing with contact, dealing with tighter systems. And at the beginning of the season, we kind of saw him struggle a little bit to create space and to get away from checks or being able to roll off checks. Well, he's way more efficient at that now. And his vision is just second to none. He's just able to, keep you guessing as a defenseman. Systems have trouble being able to lock in on him. You really have to play him aggressive or else he will beat you one-on-one. And I think the biggest thing is if you're in the right space at the right time, 9 times out of 10, he's going to find you with a slot pass. And that's the reason, for example, that a guy like Oliver Kapanen has had so many goals this season is because Demidov just keeps finding him in that soft ice.
Let's go to a more negative, I suppose. First 10 minutes talking positives. I want to switch gears here. What's going on with the goaltending here? Dobson, I know he's been racking up the wins. They're like 6-0-1 in his last 7 appearances or his last 7 starts. So they're finding ways to get results, even if the numbers aren't there. Montembeau's been a bit of a mess this season. What are they going to do with the goaltending? Are they just going to ride it out, cross their fingers that Dobson and Montembeau are good enough? Is Fowler coming back up? Are they making a trade? Where are they going here?
First things first, I would, from what I understand and from what I've been told and from what I've been hearing, the Canadiens hope that they are going to be able to solve this goaltending flux internally. I think to go out and try to make a trade for a goaltender, we saw how that worked out for Edmonton, having to trade Brett Kulak as a cap dump and a second-round pick to make what many believe to be a lateral move between Stuart Skinner and Tristan Jarry. I don't think the Canadiens are there yet. I think they want to see what could happen. I would also venture to say that they would probably call up Jacob Fowler after the Olympic break if really they haven't found a solution between now and February 4th. But the way that you just like you just pointed out, Jakub Dobson, you point out his last 7 games, his season record is 16-5-3, which if you would look at that without looking at the goals against and save percentage is a really good record for a rookie goaltender. And yes, he's able to get those wins. He's battling. It may not be pretty at times from a technique perspective. Kind of looks like, a paper bag Dominic Hasek sometimes, but he's able to get those wins and he's battling and he's making key saves like he did yesterday against Vegas that keeps the Canadiens in it. I think where it differs from a guy like Montembeau is Montembeau will play well, won't necessarily be super challenged, and then lets in the softie and then will immediately let in another goal, and that will kill the Canadiens' momentum right there and then. Well, Dobson doesn't do that. Will he get beat sometimes because he's out of position? Yes, but that's also a young goaltender, finding his rhythm in the NHL, whereas Samuel Montembeau, is getting close to 30. So there's a little bit more rope there. I think Dobson is going to be given a little bit more rope between now and the end of the before the Olympic break. And I think from there, if the Canadiens aren't confident in either, we may see a recall for Jacob Fowler, because after the trade deadline, the 23-man roster limit is no longer applicable. You can call up as many people as you want.
I was going to say, just to add to that, Marco, like, do you want to see one guy take over, or has the plan sort of been, to keep Dobson on a little bit of a leash just because he is like a younger, less experienced goaltender?
I think the schedule this season, because of the Olympics, everything's super condensed. The Canadiens have 16 back-to-backs on an 82-game schedule, tied for the most with San Jose. So you can't really just ride one goalie. And the Canadiens tried to do that last year when they went to the playoffs. At one point, Dobson wasn't playing at all, and it was just Montembeault playing all the games, including some back-to-backs. And it hurt his play overall, and that overusage, he pulled his groin in the playoffs. It's not by chance. He was overused down the stretch. So I think the Canadiens want to avoid that. Ideally, you want a tandem that's going to be able to play, because again, if something happens to this player down the stretch or in the playoffs, you want to have a goalie that can come in and give you at least, replacement, if not above replacement play for a goaltender. So the Canadiens have every interest in having both goalies getting going. Ideally, though, and I think where the organization feels is they'll take one goalie getting going. And if they need to recall Fowler to kind of, curve in and have a tandem going there, even if it's a three-headed monster down the stretch, they'll try it. But I still feel like there's answers to be had on the trade market when it comes to goaltenders, maybe this summer, because moving forward, that it be Dobson and a veteran goaltender or Fowler and a veteran goaltender, you're going to want that kind of experience to kind of round out that tandem.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of options out there either.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's the problem.
This front office, no stranger to the trade market either. I mean, they made the in-season move to pick up Philippe Danault over the summer, the Dobson deal. I guess maybe I'll go there quickly. How's Dobson look this year? I mean, 50-plus game sample size right now. Just looking at some of the metrics, they look good. What's the eye test been like on Dobson with the Habs?
Well, I think the really, when it comes to the defensive structure, I think that's where it took a little bit of time to adapt. I wouldn't say he had a very strong month of November defensively, but he's really kind of shored it up since then. Going from the Islanders that played more of a zone style defense to a man-to-man hybrid system in Montreal takes a little bit of an adjustment period, even for us watching it, to try and understand the strategy behind it. So Dobson was able to kind of come in, get to the wherewithal where he's really kind of helped the Canadiens transition, being able to kill plays in the defensive zone and immediately get it up the ice. He's extremely efficient at blocking shots, one of the best shot blockers in the NHL right now. And I think one of the big things that he's really kind of been able to do is the Canadiens' defense outside of Lane Hudson has often been accused of not being active enough in the offensive zone. Well, Noah Dobson activates from the blue line in such ways that it's very hard to contain him when you're going against the grain counter rush on the right side, and he's just able to take advantage of that open space. And if you go back and look at Cole Caufield's goal last night, that was started by a Noah Dobson pinch from the blue, where he was able to overwhelm the defensive unit, take the puck to the slot, and then slide it over to Caufield, who just had to tap it in. So that's the kind of play you're getting from Dobson. Is there room for improvement? Yes. You'd like to see him be a little bit more assertive down low in the boards. You want to see him be a little bit more, I would say, risk averse when it comes to being the last man at the blue. But these are all things that continue to get worked on when you're with a new team, outside of a couple of hiccups that, you'll see on Twitter and that Islanders fans will share with glee. I think that he's been excellent in terms of being a top pair defenseman.
Well, yeah, our Montreal Canadiens fans getting their first taste of Islander fans. I mean, you got Patrick Waugh, obviously behind the bench a couple years now, but Islander fans will do anything they can to try to expose Noah Dobson. Like, I've seen it, even when he was playing for their team.
Yeah, no, I remember I was there, and then at the moment that he was put on the trade block, it was Cole Caufield and Juraj Slafkovsky and a first-round pick and nothing less. And then he's traded and he's worth a bag of pucks. I mean, that's the way it is sometimes with players. And, I remember with John Tavares was the same thing. We joke about this with Noah from time to time. He's like, yeah, I totally understand it. It's good ribbing and I appreciate it. But the reality is that, in the Islanders room, if you ask them, they all very much appreciated the impact that Noah Dobson used to have on their team. And kudos for them for being able to get a potentially generational defenseman in Matthew Schaefer to replace him.
Yeah. Oh, and Johnny has lost his audio again, so I will wrap on one more. That's been happening all morning. Wrap on one more. Where else can you see them going on the trade market here ahead of the deadline?
See, that's the thing with the Montreal Canadiens is that it's a tricky position to be in. A lot of teams have kind of, I would say, screwed the pooch by getting a little ahead of themselves too quickly. Going to get a guy like Phil Deneau in December kind of alleviated the pressure of needing a center right now. Oliver Kapanen's doing quite well in the 2C slot. Nick Suzuki continues to be the MVP at forward for them. So they're pretty okay in that regard. If the Canadiens could, for the right price, they would be looking for that kind of competitive, rugged, goal-scoring threat in the top six, preferably a left-hand shot that they would be able to insert either on the top line with Cole Caufield or Nick Suzuki or somewhere, in the middle six. There's definitely a concern in terms of the right side of the Canadiens defense in terms of bringing in a true shutdown element as the organization kind of waits for a guy like David Reinbacher to develop. I don't think they'll go the goalie route. My gut feeling is if there's a deal to be made at forward for a player that brings a physical, competitive element with goal scoring, they'll look at it. They'll look at it clearly. But if it's out of their price range, this isn't a team that's going to be going for it in terms of trying to outbid their rivals at the trade deadline.
No idea if we have last. No, we don't. But Marco, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for popping on. Really enjoy your work, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds like a plan, guys. Good luck, Johnny, and you guys have a great day.
There we go. Marco covers the Montreal Canadiens. Appreciate him giving us some time today. Him and Jesse were both fantastic. Vic, I think this is the part of the show where I give my best bet of the night. Brought to you by Bet365. Download the app today, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365, and I am definitely riding with the Colorado Avalanche tonight. I'm honestly stunned that this line is set where it's at, considering the Senators only have 4 wins in their last 10, and the Senators are below 500 straight up on home ice this year. They're 12-10-4. That's 12 wins, 14 losses. I like taking the Colorado Avalanche, not on the money line, but on the puck line at a very nice plus 155, and honestly, you can probably juice this thing up pretty good if you throw a couple of props in there. Like Nate McKinnon, 2 points along with the puck line would probably get this to like over plus 200. I'm going to double check right now. Yeah, plus 260. Nathan McKinnon, 2 points, and the Avs on the puck line as they roll into my nation's capital in Ottawa and take on the Senators. I think they're going to absolutely roll them. Honestly, I don't know if we're going to get Johnny back. So, I don't know. Do I wrap up the show here? Do I read comments? I don't know the way Morning Cuppa Hockey usually goes. I can read a couple of comments here. Rangers Wire says the pod is cursed when Colby isn't here. Yeah, that's fair. Hopefully Colby's back soon. I mean, as much as I love talking with all you guys, the early morning wake up calls are starting to get to me a little bit here. Laz, you back?
This is insane.
Yeah,
you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you so much for doing this. And I need you again tomorrow because I'm in this hotel for one more day.
Well, I'll make sure I'm a little bit more prepped to deal with a couple of the awkward silences there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on. Technology's funny, but whatever.
Well, you know what? We're a live show. We try to be as authentic as we can for all you guys. We love spending every morning with you. These are just the hiccups that are going to happen, especially when, I'm on the road for a couple weeks here. But thank you, chat, for bearing with us. You can't, we welcome the roasting too. Like we know this is a shit situation, and Tyler, you're an absolute professional. Vic, you're an absolute professional for rolling with it. I don't know what you said in the last minute because I was off trying to figure out my microphone. You gave the bet?
Yeah, I gave the bet Avs puck line, play it with McKinnon 2 points if you want a little extra juice.
Okay, can you tell our listeners that I know puck and said Bouchard 2+ points in his 6-point outing?
Did you actually?
I was bragging about it at the bar the whole time. I was like, I said
you did. We were in Jasper together.
Yeah.
Well, you should have juiced it up more. Should have taken him 4+ points. Gotten rich. Retired.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening this morning. We won't keep it too long. Tyler, get some rest because I need it tomorrow morning. Vic, thank you for everything. Chat, thank you for everything. We love you guys. Jeremiah, sorry you couldn't make it to Boston. Sucks. The snow is kind of impacting everyone here on the East Coast. It's crazy. But everyone stay safe. Everyone stay warm. We love you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the Sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.